Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service of Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father J Friedel.
Hi, I'm Father J Friedel, and I'm your host every week for Faith in Our Hometown. This show is going to be a little bit different because this morning, we're not going to have any guests. I'm going to talk about why we came up with the idea for the show and why the people that I work with thought that it might be the right time to do this here in the Joplin area. When we came up with the idea of Faith in Our Hometown, some of it is because of my life and my life experience. I grew up in Florissant, Missouri, which when I was growing up was the most Catholic city in the state of Missouri. Everybody was Catholic. It was easier for us to go down the street and say, okay, let's see, that house and those people over there and those people are the non-Catholics and everybody else on the block is Catholic. That was what we could do back then because we kind of lived in what I refer to now lovingly as a Catholic ghetto. I grew up in a place where everybody was the same, and that's what a ghetto is, okay? Everybody was the same. We were all Catholic. Even the non-Catholics knew what parish they lived in because that was the question we asked each other. What parish you live in? Oh, I live in Sacred Heart. I go to St. Dismas or whatever. Even the non-Catholics would answer the question with things like, well, I'm not Catholic, but I live in Our Lady of Fatima. Or I'm not Catholic, but I play soccer for St. Norbert's. That was the way everybody kind of identified themselves. One of our guests, Reverend Dr. Sarah Cheney, grew up in that same area, and she said, well, when we grew up there, we knew that there were two kinds of people. There were Catholics and there were publics, and that was it. And so when I moved to southern Missouri, to Springfield, Missouri, and when my first assignment as an associate pastor, one of the parishes there, I suddenly moved from Catholic land into a world where I was suddenly in the religious minority. Springfield at that point in time was only 6% Catholic. Joplin's 4% Catholic now. And so when I moved there, I realized, well, suddenly, growing up, we didn't think about talking about religion because everybody was Catholic. And suddenly I moved to a place where not only was I not in the majority, but nobody understood my faith. Nobody understood what I was about. Nobody understood how it was I practiced. And so what we were really what I had to learn how to do as a young priest was to build relationships with our other non-Catholic neighbors so that we could figure out who each other were. We were trying to figure out, what I had to figure out what a Methodist was. I had to figure out what a Baptist believed. I had to figure out the different kinds of Baptists. I had to figure out how to talk to all these different people and try to figure out how we could speak to each other without insulting each other, without saying things that were unintentionally hurtful. All the assumptions that we would make about one another and the ways that we practice, well, I've heard this, and I've heard this, and I've heard this. And what I found out was in most cases we were wrong, that we really did have a great deal of things that we did agree on, but at the same time we had plenty of things that we didn't agree on. Well, when you come to a situation like that where you can agree on most things, well, that's where you build your relationship. Then you really start trying to figure out, well, how are we different? And I think that if you're an open person at all, when you enter into that relationship, what winds up happening is you got to say, well, tell me what it is that you believe so that I can figure out why you hold the positions that you hold. In doing so, I learned a great deal. And one of the things I really learned was a great deal of respect for my other Christian brothers and sisters, and the ways that they would go about things. Quite honestly, even though I grew up Catholic, I was a cradle Catholic, baptized and raised as a Catholic, I really don't know that I have, except in my teens every once in a while, and in my 20s every once in a while, ever really contemplated too seriously quitting and joining a different tradition. But I can still say that there are sometimes elements of traditions of other Christian churches, things that they do, even though they don't match mine perfectly. There's times when I would look at it and say, wow, in that particular moment when they describe that, there are moments I wish I was Baptist, rather than Catholic. Now, not enough in the truest sense to change, but in my real honest sense to say, I really kind of like that and that appeals to me. And in that context, I learned a lot. I learned how to deal with my brothers and sisters who were different than me, and I learned to appreciate the differences rather than just looking at them and saying, well, you're wrong or you're different. Now, I am going to say real honestly, which one of us doesn't think we're doing things the right way? If we didn't think we were doing things the right way, well, we would do them differently. But it doesn't mean that I want to abandon my beliefs or think that somebody else is right. If I really thought that there were another right way to do things, I'd obviously be doing it that way. But it's still good for me to kind of stretch myself because one of the things, and I'll talk about this more in our next segment, but one of the things is in my teaching that I would always tell my students is, how do you know what you really believe unless you've considered the thoughts from a different vantage point? How do you know what you really believe unless you have considered somebody else's arguments from a different place where they stand? And while I taught, I never once wanted to, bump anybody off of what they believed. But by the very same token, I wanted to make sure that my students were thinking. I wanted to make sure that my students were engaged because one of the things even that I would say to all my theist friends, all my believing friends, all my friends who believed in a God was, how can you really call yourself a theist if you've not at least explored the arguments of atheism? How can you say you know what you believe when you've never considered another option? Okay? So within that context, I just learned at a very early age, and especially as a young priest, now this is 30 years ago now almost, that if I didn't learn how to listen to my other brothers and sisters in goodwill and expose myself to different opinions and different ways of looking at reality, the different ways that people experience the divine, what's out there, in these days we could say the force, all right? If I didn't expose myself to some of those things, then how could I really claim what I have come to choose and what I believe as what I truly believe? And so that's one of the reasons why in my conversations with some of my parishioners, we wanted to learn how to accomplish. That we wanted to have a conversation with other people about differences of opinion on political issues, on religious issues, all of those things, so that when we get into a conversation, I can at least know that I've considered the other person's opinion. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to give mine up, because I'm a man of strong belief. I freely choose my Catholic faith, and I live it, and I hope I live it well. But we're going to talk a little bit about more of this in our next segment. We will be right back with Faith in Our Hometown after this Mercy Minute.
Hi, I'm Angie Separito with Mercy Hospital. I'm here today with Dr. Samir Dahlia. Dr. Dahlia, you are an oncologist and hematologist with Mercy, is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and you are located in the Mercy Cancer Center. Can you tell me a little bit about hematology?
Yeah, so hematology is the study of blood, and we basically deal with disorders such as leukemias, lymphomas, blood clotting disorders, such as if you had a blood clot in your leg, the hemophilias, sickle cell disease, and any other problem with the blood, including low platelets, high platelets, anemia, or a problem with your white blood cell count.
So you're located in the Mercy Cancer Center, and if a patient needed to be seen, wanted to come to the Mercy Cancer Center, do they need a referral?
They don't need a referral to see us.
Okay, so they could just simply call the number on your screen, or if you wanted to find out more information, you could actually visit mercy.net.
Hi, and welcome back to Faith in Our Hometown. Our format this week is a little different because I don't have any guests this week. What we are trying to accomplish this week is to talk about why we started doing this show in the first place. For those of you who are new to joining us, we're hoping that this is going to be an intelligent conversation and a civil conversation among people of different beliefs from the Joplin area. as we share life and we share faith with each other, I'm of the firm belief that if we understand each other better, we can support each other better, we can challenge each other better, and we actually become stronger in our own convictions about what we do believe when we have an intelligent and peaceful conversation with each other, people of goodwill coming together to try to figure out, well, what do we believe? That's what comprises the people who live here. That's what comprises the wonderful folks who live in the Joplin area. That's what comprises the different people that go to different churches, and even a lot of the ones that don't go to church. As a matter of fact, I always chuckle about the format of the show. We're on a Sunday morning, and a lot of the people that that would be our given audience are actually at church on a Sunday morning. So we're trying to teach 80-year-olds how to use their VCRs, and if they happen to have DVD players, or if they also happen to have a DVR, so that they can record those things. And we're given lessons because people say, "Well, we're at church, we want to watch the show." I'm also hoping that folks who are not believers will watch the show, and mostly because I want to engage folks in a conversation, whether they're believers, whether they're not believers, whether they're theists, whether they're atheists, whether they're Christians, non-Christians. Let's just talk to each other and understand each other a little bit better. We need civil discourse in our society. We're so bad at it these days. I'm fed up with both. We're in a two-party system, and the two parties have stopped talking to each other. They only talk at each other. And it's one of my soapboxes when Catholics do that to one another, because they'll take one side of an issue, another side of an issue, and instead of listening to each other and trying to find some common ground and figure out a way to forge forward together, even if they disagree, all they want to be is against what the other one is. How is that helping us move forward? I don't think it's helping us move forward as a society, and I certainly don't think it helps us move forward as people of faith. One of the other reasons why we came to doing a show like we have here is that for many years, probably for about 9 or 10, well, probably 9, I guess, I taught world religions as one of my gigs as a campus minister at Southeast Missouri State University. And I still miss the classroom. I love the classroom. It's one of my great dangers on this show, is because sometimes I want to get back on my teaching soapbox and go to town, and I've got to share the show with these other people. So this is really a guilty pleasure this morning, having all this time with you myself. But in my teaching, and teaching world religions, and I would also teach things like exploring spirituality. I would also teach things on independent studies on how the Christian scriptures came about, or those kinds of things. But in my teaching duties, the thing that I taught the most was world religions. And I loved it one day because one of my former students was on his way up the sidewalk, and I was on my way down the sidewalk, and I was on my way to class, and he was on his way from a different class, and he says to me, he says, "Father Jay," he said, "what are you teaching today?" And I said, "Well, I'm teaching Buddhism today in world religions," because he didn't take in the class. And he looked at me and he smiled and he broke into a big grin and he said, "It's one of the things I love about you. It's one of the things I love about being on a college campus. Here you are, a Catholic priest teaching Buddhism on a secular campus. You gotta love this." And I had to laugh and I said, "Thanks, Todd." And I did love it. And I loved doing what I was doing because I knew that one of the reasons why I was there on that college campus was to help teach people and help open their minds. I wanted to teach my college students not just to think one way, but to be open to other schools of thought. Now, I will be honest, I was never really thrilled when one of my Catholic students decided they were going to leave and go do something else. But bottom line is that if that's what they really, truly, in their heart of hearts, thought God was leading them to do, why would they listen to me? Why should they listen to me? If somehow in their exploration for truth, they were coming to their own conclusion. Now, I will say as a sidelight, I always would say to them, if you're going to go something else, at least give me a chance to present the truth the way we see it. And I would do that with my Catholic students. But for my other students, I just wanted to open up a world of different ideas. It's one of the things that I always say here. It's one of my challenges to Missouri Southern. So if there's any Missouri Southern faculty listening to this, I'm going to throw out this challenge. We're supposed to be a university with an international mission, but yet we only teach one section of world religions every other semester. Now, what's that all about? How can we be a university with an international mission when we only teach world religions once in a while? We need to be teaching it to everybody who wants to take it. If we've got an international mission, we got to see the way other people in other parts of the world think about reality. We've got to be a university and a community that says, okay, I hold my beliefs. I may be a Christian, because let's face it, this community is 99% Christian. But even if we're going to hold those views, we also need to understand how other people think. Otherwise, how do we engage people in that conversation? How can I say, okay, I understand what you're saying, and here's why I believe something different, if we don't take the time to value the opinion of the other person, figure out what they're trying to say, allow ourselves really to be challenged by it, to consider it, and see whether or not our own position is really the one that still deserves to be held after all of that conversation. How are we going to do all that? So again, part of our reason for doing this show was because I really wanted to have the same kind of caliber of conversation that I was used to having with my peers at Southeast Missouri State University. I will tell you this, and I'm probably not going to be able to get this done in this segment, so we'll continue on to the next one. But the department we taught in was called the Department of Political Science, Philosophy, and Religion. Now, that is just a dream department when it comes to mixing up ideas and conversation and the way that we go about those things. It was classic. Political science, philosophy, and religion. What else could you want in terms of discussing the world of ideas? I had some great colleagues, and in my conversations with those colleagues, we were always bouncing things around. The political science folks were saying, how does this impact politics? How do we do religion in the public square? What's the role of religion in the public square? How do we talk about some of that stuff? Well, how should religion be involved in politics? When does it overstep its bounds? When does it overreach? Can it overreach? Those are the things that we were thrilled to be talking about with each other and thrilled to be talking about with our students, because those are really where it impacts our lives as people who live in this society and are trying to make our society, the places we live in the world, a better place. That's what this is all about. So when we come back in the next segment, I'm going to pick up a little bit with why we do some of those conversations. But for now, I'll be right back after this Mercy Minute.
Hi, I'm Angie Saprita with Mercy Hospital. I'm here today with Dr. Anand Afane. Dr. Afane, you are a rheumatologist with Mercy Hospital, is that correct?
Yes.
What does that mean? What does a rheumatologist do?
So rheumatology usually deals with evaluating and treating autoimmune diseases where the body attacks itself, mainly rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, vasculitis, scleroderma. We also treat a lot of joint diseases, joint pain, gout, osteoarthritis, and many other autoimmune diseases as well.
There's a big need for that in this area, I know. Are you accepting patients right now?
Yes, we are accepting new patients, and we schedule them within a week or so at the moment.
And do they need a referral?
They do need a referral from their primary care, and they can just call our office and we'll get them in as soon as we can.
Perfect, perfect. If you want to find out more, you can call the number that's on your screen, or you can also visit us at mercy.net.
Hi, I'm Father J Friedel. Welcome back to Faith in Our Hometown. This week we're doing something a little bit different. Instead of having guests, we're kind of laying out our reasons for why we do a show like Faith in Our Hometown in the first place. At the end of the last segment, I was talking a little bit about why I'm so passionate about wanting to have these conversations. Part of it stems from my time on the faculty and as a campus minister at Southeast Missouri State University. One of my jobs here is that I'm still a campus minister at Missouri Southern. I have not tried to add adding teaching to my repertoire because I think with all my other duties, I'm a pastor of St. Peter's in Joplin. I'm the pastor of St. Anne's Catholic Church in Carthage. And I'm also the director of vocations and seminarians for our diocese. And our diocese is the southern third of the state of Missouri. It stretches all across the bottom from Joplin on this side to Cape Girardeau on the other. And, from about Nevada is close to the breaking line. So El Dorado Springs is in our diocese, Nevada is in the other, here in the Joplin area. And then, of course, all the way down to the Arkansas border, but all the way across. I'm in charge of the training of our priests and our seminarians who are gentlemen studying to be priests in the Roman Catholic Church. So I'm on the road a lot and visiting seminaries and helping them get ready for life as a priest. So I don't know that I could teach here, but I'm always tempted because I love the classroom and I love the academic life and I love the world of ideas. I love talking about those ideas, which is one of the things that led us to doing this show. I said in the last segment that I had some great colleagues in the Department of Political Science, Philosophy, and Religion. So we called ourselves teasingly the Department of Church and State with a question mark for the philosophers. In doing so, we did have lots of dialogue, and I just got used to having intelligent conversations where nobody called each other names. We'd laugh at each other from time to time and say, well, of course you'd think that way. And we'd do some of those things with each other. But we could tease each other. Nobody got their feelings hurt. We were able to have the conversation with each other. We were able to really, truly ask each other questions at a really deeper level. The political science people would come in and they'd say, Jay, what's happening today? Why was this statement? Why did the Catholic Church make this statement? And why did you think that was necessary? And so we'd go into it. Or we'd be in a political year, which we're getting ready to wind up in here again. And in doing that, they'd say, well, why do you Catholics, take some of the positions you take? And we'd be able to have the conversation because they really, truly wanted to know. They knew what the position was, but they never sometimes got the reasons why. And then they would be able to hit me with counter-arguments, and I'd have to either come up with another reason for why I would continue to hold that position, or when I'd walk away, I'd be going, I'm going to have to think about this because, they brought up a point that I'm not ready to answer yet. I love that because it was stretching me and growing me as a person. Well, I got used to that in that department. I got used to that with my colleagues, and it was a wonderful model for higher education. We could have forums on faith in the public square. We could have forums on what different religions thought about different topics. We could have forums on why we should take this position in society, and the philosophers would be involved. The theologians, the religionists would be involved, and the political scientists, the politicians would be involved. And we'd get in there and we'd mix it up. And we'd still walk away from the whole thing, sometimes disagreeing, usually actually even disagreeing, but we'd still walk away friends. We'd still walk away with respect for one another because we had the guts to stay in the conversation and listen to one another. We had the guts to stay in the conversation and argue passionately with one another. We had the courage to stick around and take the hard route of being forced to hold a position just because somebody else was challenging and you were giving them the freedom to do so. And because of that, I still have tremendous respect for my colleagues there. And I still have got some of those relationships and friendships with some of those people, the religionists, the philosophers, and the political science people. It was a great, I was there for 13 years. It was a great run of my life. I've been here in Joplin now I'm in my 10th year. And I was one of the reasons why we started to do this show is because I was tired of just talking to Catholics all the time. I mean, I love Catholics. I give my life to them. I'm there to do it. But it's fun sometimes to talk to some people who don't just sit around and going, well, what do you think, Father Jay? Or when they ask it, they won't usually come with the challenge. It's just like, because, they're thinking the same things that other non-Catholics are thinking, but they're just not going to say, well, I'm not going to challenge the priest. I love sometimes going to the high school at Macaulay. It's great when I go into the high school because the high school students, they don't care if they challenge anything. They just want to say, Father Jay, why do we do this? Why do we believe this? And I love those conversations because I'm getting to the real things that they want to know. I could go in there and talk about whatever I think they need to know, but trust me, it's a lot more fun when they start bringing their questions. So one of the things that we're going to be set up to do here, hopefully in the near future, is that we're going to make sure that in Faith in Our Hometown, we're going to have some way of letting our listeners get in touch with us. We'd love to hear some of your questions. We'd love to hear some of the topics that you would like for us and for other people in the community to be able to discuss. I can't guarantee when that's going to happen, but I know that it's part of our desire to see it happen, because we don't want to just be accused of saying, well, you're only going to talk about the topics you want to talk about. Because that's not the reason why we designed and desired to do this show. We want to talk about some of the topics that you all feel that we need to talk about. We want to talk about some of the topics that you would want us to discuss with one another. We would want to be able to talk about some of those things that sometimes people say, well, there's that old conversation, that old thing that you say, well, in polite conversation, you never talk about religion, sex, or politics. Well, we haven't done much talking about sex on this show, but we certainly talked about religion and politics. And I guess you can bring the third one on, but you know what they say, those who can't do, teach. So there you have it, okay? So I don't think anything should be off limits in this program. I don't think we should be afraid about talking about anything. If we're afraid of talking about it, then I'm not so sure how well we really hold it or how much we really believe it. We designed the show to be a forum for conversations. And I'm committed to having them. It's one of the reasons why, even when we raised the money to do this, I said I don't want to just do a Catholic show. I've got a Catholic show. It's at St. Peter the Apostle Church. If any of you want to see the Catholic show, come on over there and I'll put on that hat. But in this context, I'm not just interested in doing the Catholic show. I'm interested in doing a show that reflects really, truly all the different beliefs of the Joplin area and the greater Joplin area. I want to have a show that talks about the issues that we care about here. I want to have a show that reflects who we are as a community. And I want to have a show that reflects who we are as a community of faith. One of the things that I'm firmly aware of here in Joplin is that we got a great Catholic community. And I know that there's great other communities of faith out there because I've encountered them, especially at the time of the tornado when we were all working together. It was a great time because we saw what we had in common and we saw what we could accomplish when we pulled together. I want that on this show as well. And so we're committed to that. So when we get up there with a way for you to contact us, we do want you to contact us. We want you to let us know what topics you want to talk about. If there are religious leaders out there that want to contact us with a desire to be a part of the operation, and you come with a good topic and a willingness to do this conversation politely and respectfully, that we're not going to beat each other over the head and try to win the day, but more have a conversation and figure out what we all think and how we move forward together, then that's what we're about. That is what we're supposed to be talking about in this format and in this way. That's why we designed Faith in Our Hometown, and I hope it really truly reflects faith in our hometown. Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope to see you next Sunday morning. God bless.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. here on KSN. Brought to you as a community service by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.